Good evening, this is Brass Taxam Zaka Jacob. Rishi Sunak has been appointed as the new Prime Minister of Britain. He becomes the first British Asian and the first of Indian origin to become Britain's Prime Minister. While this is a moment of great pride for many here in India, some others have found this an opportunity to shame the BJP's model of government, saying that India will never have a minority candidate who can aspire for the top job in the country. Is this political nitpicking? Or is this convenient cherry-picking of facts because India has had minority prime ministers and minority presidents in the past? But more than the minority card, it is what they brought to the table, their capabilities, their meritocracy, which enabled them to get the job. As is the case with Rishi Sunak, someone who got the best of education, someone who proved his mettle both in the private sector as well as in government. But here's how his appointment has become a controversy even amid a celebration.
And I have been elected as leader of my party and your Prime Minister, in part, to fix them. And that work begins immediately.
While Rishi Sunak has made history by becoming UK's first British Asian Prime Minister, his selection has triggered a political storm in India. Many opposition leaders have used Sunak's victory to target the BJP. Congress MP and former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram said there is a lesson to be learnt by India and the parties that practice majoritarianism. His fellow partyman Shashi Tharoor followed suit.
To actually create a situation where a brown man can become Prime Minister. I think that's an extraordinary achievement. I would really like to see the Hindutvavadis of the BJP being prepared to embrace somebody. Would they embrace somebody who's an overtly practicing Muslim or Christian as Prime Minister?
Former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister and PDP Chief Mehbooba Mufti said that while the UK has accepted an ethnic minority member as its Prime Minister, India is still shackled by discrimination. The BJP immediately dismissed the opposition's claims.
India is rejoicing, Indians are rejoicing globally. So let us celebrate that. Today is not the occasion for political divide.
जी और एक लंबी श्रृंखला है तमाम जो संवैधानिक पद हैं उस पर जो है वो कभी जाति धर्म और कुनबा ये नहीं महत्व रहा काबिलियत महत्वपूर्ण नहीं.
The fact of the matter is that India has had a Sikh Prime Minister, several Muslim presidents, and the current head of state is from the tribal community. So is the opposition's majoritarianism argument far-fetched, or is there a need to introspect?
All right, on the talking point this evening, Guru Prakash Paswan is national spokesperson of the BJP. Will be joined by Harinder Sikha, author and analyst. Kailash Adhikari is director with Governance Now. Kapil Madan, a lawyer and political analyst, and Adnan Malik, political analyst, also joining us. Kapil Madan, let me start with you first. When Mr. Chidambaram, Mr. Tharoor say that will this happen in India where a person from a minority community can aspire to the top job, why are they discounting the fact that Manmohan Singh, a Sikh, was Prime Minister for 10 years from the Congress Party? Why are they discounting that APJ Abdul Kalam was a Muslim and President of India, the first citizen, for 5 years? There have been numerous instances of presidents who've come from the minority community or prime ministers who've come from the minority community. So it's not like, Britain needs to show India the way or anything of that sort, as has been presented or made the case by the likes of Mr. Chidambaram and Mr. Tharoor.
Zaka, I think we're talking about the times where you have zero member of parliament in Lok Sabha from the incumbent government, from the BJP. We're talking about the time when you have zero cabinet minister from Muslim community in the Council of Ministers, and this has been said in that backdrop because now, I mean, this is not the BJP of Atalji. This is the BJP of Narendra Modi, which is driving and thriving on massive polarization. It does not even require any kind of indication that the BJP thrives on polarization. Now
But Kapil, is your point that minority community candidates just can't aspire for high constitutional offices in this country because the BJP can turn around and say that a Dalit president also comes from a marginalized community, comes from one of the most disadvantaged communities. a tribal woman president comes from one of the most disadvantaged, both socially and economically disadvantaged communities. Even that is representation in high office. It's not just that you have to be Muslim or Christian or Sikh to be considered minority.
Zaka, let me tell you, I am not for a minute saying that you should give precedence to religion over merit. Of course, yes, when someone needs to be elected to any government offices, any office of public importance, of course the merit should be the predominant deciding factor. But we need to understand and we need to see what this incumbent government does. I mean, this is the government that is following extreme right-wing political ideology, where I mean their minister left, right, and center indulges in hate speeches targeting a particular community.
No, look, once again, that's a separate debate from that's a separate debate from today's debate topic is very simple. It's taking off from what Mr. Chidambaram, Mr. Tharoor said, that minority candidates, even if they are meritorious in this country, cannot aspire to high office because the politics is that of majoritarianism. So let me ask Guru Prakash Paswan of the BJP the two specific points that Kapil Madan said. Number one, you don't have a single Muslim member of parliament and you have 300 of them, and you don't have any Muslims in the Union Council of Ministers as of right now. Please respond.
Zaka, I would like to remind your viewers that the founding members of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Sikandar Bakht Sahab was one of the founding members of the Bharatiya Janata Party. For the first time in our history, Zaka, we have a Pasmanda Muslim, a Muslim from a backward and the marginalized community, Danish Rizwan Ansari, in the Uttar Pradesh cabinet. Don't they deserve representation? Don't they deserve justice? If you are backward or marginalized, do the only elite among the Muslim deserve to be represented? I ask my friend from the Congress party. Ghulam Ali ji was sent to Rajya Sabha. Who is Mr. Ghulam Ali? Probably my friends don't know. Mr. Ghulam Ali is a Gujar, a scheduled tribe Muslim from Jammu and Kashmir. Maybe Mehbooba Mufti ji is not aware of him. Mehbooba Mufti ji is not aware because he is a scheduled tribe. He is a Gujar. He is a Muslim. The point is precisely this. Be it Mr. Tharoor, be it Mehbooba Mufti ji, they just want to do the minority appeasement politics. That has been the fundamental problem.
So how are you making that distinction? No, once again, Guru, you are saying you've sent Muslim candidates to the Rajya Sabha. You're saying you've got Muslim candidates as ministers in the UP government. Why then couldn't you find a single capable enough Muslim candidate, obviously one who can win an election, to field in the Lok Sabha? Or why couldn't, in the UP election that happened earlier this year, couldn't you find a single candidate, a Muslim candidate, who could win an assembly seat? Or is that stated policy that you believe that is appeasement, therefore you will not give tickets just because somebody happens to be a Muslim?
No, Zaka, that is entirely not the case. If there is any candidate who is a winnable candidate, BJP will already have, in the history you see, in Bihar elections there were Muslim candidates, in multiple other state elections you have had Muslim candidates. That is not the point. But the point which I am trying to convey is precisely this. When predominantly Muslim seats like Rampur and Azamgarh, these are predominantly Muslim seats, they have voted for the Bharatiya Janata Party. Who has benefited the abolition of triple talaq? Who has benefited the abrogation of Article 370? The beneficiaries of Jan Dhan Yojana, 47 crore bank accounts nationally. You are suggesting that there are no Muslims in it? I mean, this is preposterous to suggest,
okay.
Zaka. Our only point is that
one is welfare schemes. Once again. I think again we're confusing two issues. One is welfare schemes. Is there any discrimination in welfare schemes? No, I don't think that's the case the opposition is making. The opposition is making a case for meritorious minority candidates. Can they aspire for high office from within the BJP? Anyway, let me get Adnan Malik. You know, the problem with this minority candidates can't aspire for the top job argument is that Rishi Sunak's extraordinary political journey has been reduced to the fact that he's a minority candidate. That's the greatest, gravest, most unfair thing that you can say to him and of his career, because look at the schools he went to. He's gone to Oxford, he's gone to Stanford, he had a shining career as an investment banker, gave all that up, came to England at the age of 35, to run for Member of Parliament, won his first election. And in 7 years in public life, he's gone from MP to PM. I mean, if this is not a story of merit, then I don't know what it is.
Yes, very, very true that Rishi Sunak is totally become Prime Minister of UK is on the basis of merit. Due to his good work as a finance minister, he did, at the time of Corona, he did give subsidies to the industries of UK as well as to the local peoples. He became very famous at the time of as a finance minister, and he became the Prime Minister on the basis of merit due to the Lisa failed to run the government within 45 days. He is incapable of managing the economy of this Britain. That is why he resigned from 45 days. This clearly shows that Rishi Sunak is an example of merit.
Okay, Kailash Adhikari, come back to the argument that the likes of Mr. Tharoor and Mr. Chidambaram were making. I've got a list of candidates from minority communities who've gone on to occupy highest offices in this country. Manmohan Singh, like I said, was a Sikh Prime Minister. Currently, we have a tribal woman president, the first ever. We had APJ Abdul Kalam as a Muslim president. Zakir Hussain was a president who was also from the Muslim community. So was Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed. Gyani Zail Singh was a Sardar. He, again, a minority candidate, went on to become president. We've had chief justices who were from the minority community. We've had, other eminent folks who've occupied constitutional offices from the minority communities. So to say that people from minority communities cannot aspire for high office in this country belies all the names that I just read out.
Absolutely, Zaka. It's there's a very famous saying in English, an empty mind is a devil's workshop. And I believe that it strictly applies to the opposition here. They are completely devoid of any argument. They're completely devoid of any content, and they're completely devoid of any merit. And to the long list that you just mentioned, I'd like to add the name of Hamid Ansari ji also. He was Vice President of India. So to say that just because someone belongs to a minority community, that too, whether a Muslim or Christian, and he cannot aspire for the top job in this country is absolutely wrong. You're just not only belying the people who have gone to those top jobs, and you are also insulting to all those aspirants who tomorrow can become, they can occupy the top job. And also, I don't find merit in this argument that if in UK, if a person of the minority community can become in India also, Zaka, political landscapes are very different. Prior to 2014 in this country, so much of minority appeasement was done that which is not found rather in the West. So such kind of comparisons are completely bizarre. And today is a day where we all as Indians, should be proud of the fact that a person of the Indian origin has occupied the top job of the United Kingdom. And this places on record so much of trust that both the countries diplomatically and bilaterally can now gain. We should not forget that there is an FTA agreement, free trade agreement on the table, which our Commerce Minister as well as the Commerce Ministry is trying to pursue. We see light and hope that this may go through in the history of both the countries. And here is our opposition just trying, whiling away their time in talks which have no base at all.
Now, let me ask Kapil Madan this. Again, the way democracy works, Kapil, and you know this very well, is you have to win the support of the majority of the people. In Rishi Sunak's case, he managed to win the majority support of elected parliamentarians. And it happened after what happened with Boris Johnson, and Liz Truss was not able to win over their trust. Yes, she won the race, but eventually she lost the battle in 45 days. Rishi Sunak was able to win the confidence of the majority of elected parliamentarians of the Conservative Party in the British Parliament. That's how he's the leader of the Tory Party and the Prime Minister of Britain. So tomorrow, if there is a capable Muslim candidate or a Christian candidate or a Sikh candidate who can take on the BJP and win an election, win majority support of the people of this country, then by all means that person should run for office. Who's stopping them? The Constitution certainly doesn't.
Zaka, that's precisely my point, that our Constitution It does not discriminate. We are a secular country. And, it does not even require a validation that, politics at the end of the day is a number game. Whomsoever has the majority, he will assume the office. But having said that, we can't, turn a blind eye on the fact that the BJP runs on, extreme right-wing political ideology. And you have a glaring example here where the Supreme Court is now constrained to say that, we are living in a 21st century and, the politicians are indulging into...
Kapil, again, what is happening is far too often you're confusing issues. Yes, there is hate. No, one second. There is, you can make the case that there is hate speech. Oftentimes this hate speech is not acted against or, not acted against forcefully enough. But to say that that is a deterrent for a capable candidate from a minority community to run for high office, I don't see the link. How are you linking one and the other?
Let me give you the link. You interrupted me. I would have, clarified myself at the first.
Go ahead. I'm listening now.
Allow me to now clarify. Now, when you have senior politicians making hate speeches left, right, and center, and let me tell you, it happens with the tacit approval of, of the incumbent government, where the incumbent government, in fact, the PMO or maybe the Home Minister can simply use their Twitter handles and can condemn such kind of hate speeches. They could possibly say publicly that we are a secular country and be it Muslim, Hindus, everyone is one as per the Constitution. Never.
But Kapil, again, I'm coming back. Sorry, I'm interrupting because I don't see how you're making the connection. Yes, one thing in and of itself is bad. I'm not justifying for a moment hate speech or the lack of action against it. But how is that stopping any capable, meritorious minority candidate from aspiring for or running for a high office in this country? You're not making that link.
My point, I think you're missing the point. Zaka. My point, I am not trying to submit here that, the hate speeches will deter any individual from a, minority community to aspire, for good offices. All I'm trying to argue and submit here before your viewers that it is a form of the government that runs heavily on, Hindutva, that runs heavily on the, polarization on the plank of their Hindutva politics.
Okay.
And that's
so
let
me ask Guru Prakash Paswan that the case being made by the likes of Kapil Madan is your entire paradigm is about polarization. It's about treating minorities badly or giving them the impression that they are not like all other citizens of this country, that they have some kind of different yardstick. They are treated like second-class citizens. This entire politics revolves around that. Therefore, none of them want to be associated with your party or through it run for high office in this country.
Zaka, we have to understand a couple of things here. There are sufficiently clear because only a supporter or a sympathizer of the Congress party can say that. This is the sheer arrogance, the sheer feudalistic mindset of the Congress party that questions the wisdom of the Indian voter. You are suggesting that the entire 1.3 billion people gets polarized? Are you suggesting this? It's so easy to polarize a nation of 1.3 billion. You are questioning the intelligence and wisdom of the Indian voter, and that is something which is really objectionable, and only a Congress supporter or a sympathizer can say that. Point number one. Point number two, you were talking about hate speeches. Nagpur Congress leader Sheikh Hussain, he abuses the Prime Minister. Official national spokesperson of the Congress party, Dr. Udit Raj, says things about Baba Sahib Ambedkar, says things about the President of India, Draupadi Murmu. What is that? What do you suggest of that?
But Guru, had you taken action against the likes of a Parvesh Verma? One second. Have you taken action against the likes of a Parvesh Verma? Had you set that example, then you can very well turn around and ask the Congress. But it's not like you've set an example.
Zaka, you very well remember that the Honorable Prime Minister on record said that whoever is doing violence in the name of Gauraksha should be condemned. He was on record to say that. And we don't need any validation from anyone, but we have to understand this. We have to understand, and I was just going through a very nice tweet by someone who has topped the Indian Civil Services examination. Mr. Shah Faisal, a Kashmiri Muslim who has a perspective, a Kashmiri Muslim, a perspective that any of us present in the panel has. He writes on Twitter that it is only possible in India that a Muslim youngsters from Kashmir can go on to top the Indian civil services examination, then fall apart with the government and still be rescued and taken back by the same government. This is the beauty of India. This is the power. India is a land of equal opportunity where a former untouchable, a Dalit drafts the Constitution of India.
The question that's being asked by the opposition is, can a Muslim or a Christian or a Sikh aspire to the highest office in this land? Of course, today the BJP is the ruling party. You're the ruling party in the center. You're ruling in, I think, about 17 or 18 states in this country. So one thing is clear, that if you aspire for high office in this country, then you stand a better chance going through the BJP rather than any other political party, given the political lay of the land as of today. In that scheme of things, how and why is it that the BJP could not find one minority member of parliament to give a ticket to, or in UP, for example, the largest state, they could not find one minority candidate to give an MLA ticket to? How is this sending a message to minority candidates, even if they are deserving, meritorious ones, that in the BJP everybody is welcome? Harinder Sikka. Mr. Sikka.
Yep.
Yeah, that question was to you,
Hello.
sir.
1 second, can you repeat it, please? Sorry.
Yeah, all right, I'll repeat that question. What the opposition is saying is, if the BJP cannot give tickets to Muslim candidates, even if it is a nominal one for MP election or MLA election, then why should minority candidates, or how will minority candidates, even if they are deserving, get the confidence that they can also aspire for high office, as Rishi Sunak has aspired and shown that he can become Prime Minister of Britain?
It's absolutely unnecessary, these conversations, or creating a storm in the cup and stuff like that. Did or did not, it was Prime Minister Vajpayee who invited Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam to become the President of India. There have been reasonably large number of minorities, both be it Muslims, be it Sikhs, who have been given tickets and voted. Now a situation had arrived that it was winning candidates who were more needed. Now I don't understand politics that much. The fact is that they want to know who are winners. And the very fact that BJP has emerged, we also must appreciate that during COVID, take for example Uttar Pradesh. Was there any family, Muslim, Hindu, Christian, which was not served proper food, proper medications and taken care of, free foods, and to the largest possible population? So this kind of discrimination to be brought out, that so-and-so is a Muslim, therefore he has not got a vote or a seat or ticket, or so-and-so is a Sikh, this is absurd. This is absolutely not correct. This feeling, who are the creators of this feeling? People like Owaisi, who will we are left out. Mr. Owaisi, what is your stake? How have you become 10,000 crore worth of person? Where has this money come from? Who is funding you? Why do you speak in favor of the likes of Zakir Naiks? Now, when these kind of radicals, supported by other radicals, and some Godi media, when they point it out and raise it beyond a point, you speak a lie 10 times, it will become a truth. It's not the fact.
Okay. I want to go back to Kailash Adhikari. Coming back to Rishi Sunak. Now, one of the problems, and you could call this, they have to cater to their domestic audiences, whether it's a Rishi Sunak or even a Kamala Harris for that matter, they have to appear, and I'm sorry I'm using this phrase rather loosely here, but they have to appear more white than the average white politician, like the kind of pressure that a Rishi Sunak would face when it comes to an FTA with India, for example, which is going on right now, will be much more manifold than what a Liz Truss would have faced or what a Boris Johnson would have faced, because these guys are being held to a different standard.
Absolutely, Zaka. For Rishi Sunak, any agreement with India or any bilateral talk with India will be under the scanner multifold, not only by the Indian media but also by the British media.
Yep.
So so goes with Madam Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States. So while of course it is a moment for us to rejoice that a person of Indian origin. A person of Indian origin, not an Indian. So we have to be quite sure of that,
Yeah.
A person of Indian origin has occupied top post in another country, but that does not give us undue favors. I mean, yes, it is a moment to rejoice. You can be happy about it, but that does not mean that it is going to get us some undue favors. Rather, on the flip side, as you mentioned, any agreement with India or any talk with India will be more under the scanner. So that person has to be much more careful.
So how do you then marry the two? On the one hand, you're having some people say, oh, this is a great moment for India. A person of Indian origin has become prime minister. There's a Hindu prime minister in Britain. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is, and this is a fact, his family left in the 1930s. They went to Kenya. His father was born in Kenya. He was born in England. His father and mother migrated to England. They were students there, and then eventually they went on. I think the father was a doctor. The mother used to run a medical store. Rishi Sunak was born in Britain. He is a third generation British man. So how do you marry these two? Because it seems contradictory on the face of it.
Zaga, I don't feel the need to, marry these both. Rishi Sunak is a British citizen. There's no doubt about that. There's no two ways about that. He's just a person of Indian origin. That's it. And as Indians, we, to the maximum extent, can be happy about it. I mean, all over social media, if you see today, there are so many memes where people are saying Uno flip because of the British Raj, how the colonial power ruled over India. So, I mean, I'm not going into all that because that's past, that's history. I would not like to equate that. That's not in the right spirit. But we can just be happy about that fact. It does not. It should not be. It should not lead to any more conclusions.
Okay, I'll give Guru Prakash the final word. Guru Prakash, again, I come back to this contradiction that on the one hand, we're all happy that a person of Indian origin, for the very first time, a person of color has become the Prime Minister of Britain. But yet at the same time, they have to, like I said, appear more white than the average white politician because they are held to a different standard. So how do you marry the contradiction?
Well, Zaka, we have to understand how Honorable Prime Minister warmly greeted Mr. Sunak on his appointment on Twitter, and the sort of phrases which he used that we are going to closely work and cooperate. But the travesty of this entire issue is that some of the political leaders back in India, they want to create this as an issue of minority tolerance. And this is clearly beyond my comprehension. It is an international affairs issue. A person of Indian origin has risen to the top through sheer determination, through sheer merit, and instead of welcoming that, you are generating another controversy. And someone with the likes of Mehbooba Mufti and Shashi Tharoor, who are notorious for doing all this. But we have to understand that it took us more than 7 decades. It took us more than 7 decades to have a woman from the tribal community as a head of the constitutional position, as the President of India. So we don't need any lessons from anyone to guide us and say that we need to learn from them when it comes to representation, diversity and inclusion.
Okay,
Zaka.
we'll have to leave it at that. Thanks very much to all our guests, Guru Prakash Paswan, Kapil Madan, Karya Hardikari, Harinder Sikka and Adnan Malik for joining us and talking about the opposition and some opposition politicians trying to make a controversy out of this. One of them is Dr. Shashi Tharoor. CNN News 18's political editor Maria Shakil spoke with Mr. Tharoor, who defended his tweet about how India should learn lessons from Britain after Rishi Sunak's appointment as Prime Minister.
Your tweet has set off a storm. One may say that this invocation of majoritarian angle in Rishi Sunak's elevation is superficial, sir.
Well, look, I mean, the fact is that they have overlooked a fundamental question of race, that he is a brown-skinned person. He is not of Anglo-Saxon stock or English stock or Scots stock or anything like that. He is somebody of Indian origin. And the British, who were notorious and justifiably so for their racial discrimination for a couple of centuries of imperial conquest and rule, a country that used to have racial restrictions on who could enter their clubs in India and Africa till half a century, 60 years ago. Such a country has been able to outgrow the worst of its own prejudices to actually create a situation where a brown man can become prime minister. I think that's an extraordinary achievement. Secondly, they've overlooked his religion. I mean, he is an overtly practicing Hindu, proud of his faith, takes his oath on the Bhagavad Gita. He is somebody who, even when campaigning for the Tory party leadership a couple of months ago, tweeted pictures of himself performing a cow puja and praying to Lord Krishna on Janmashtami. This is somebody who's absolutely overtly proud of practicing a faith which is not only not the majority faith in Britain, but is actually at odds with the established church there, which is, as you know, the Anglican Christian church. So here you've got somebody who's a double minority, as it were, and the British have been able to overlook their prejudices and take him on.
Yes.
I would really like to see the Hindutvavadis of the BJP being prepared to embrace somebody who comes from a different ethnicity, such as, for example, you remember when Sonia Gandhi was offered the premiership by her victorious coalition in 2004, you remember what the BJP said then, and the BJP leader wanted to shave her head and go on dharna outside Parliament. And then if there's somebody who goes outside the Indic religions, because Hindutva has always said that Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, Buddhists, they're all the same, they're all their holy land is this land, but anyone from anywhere else is actually a foreigner in our country.
Okay.
Would they embrace somebody who's an overtly practicing Muslim or Christian as Prime Minister? I'm asking this in all genuineness. I'm not saying that it's... I think we have to acknowledge that what's happened is very different from what would happen here.
But Dr. Tharoor, what the BJP is saying is, and it's reminding you of Indian history, that India has had 3 presidents from the minority community. Dr. Zakir Hussain, the 3rd president of India, was a Muslim. Justice Hidayatullah, who acted as an acting president.
Indian history, Maria,
yes, of course. Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, Gyani Zal Singh.
But we also know that the presidency... We also know the presidency is a largely ceremonial office and contains absolutely no power. The Prime Minister holds the power in this country. We know that very well, which is why it's possible for them to appoint to Rashtrapati Bhavan figures who do represent in many ways the diversity we'd like to celebrate in our country. It's wonderful to have an Adivasi president. We've had 2 Dalit presidents. We've had 3 Muslim presidents. All of this is a very good thing because it signifies that we can use this very high office, high in prestige but low in power, to use that office for such purposes. But when it comes to real power, we have had the prime ministership held only by Hindus, with one exception being a Sikh, but most Hindus would not regard that as such an exception as it would be to have someone from a quote-unquote non-Indic religion. Now, this is what is remarkable, I think, about what the Brits have done. I'm no Anglophile. I've written about British racism. I've written about British imperialism. I've been uncompromising in my criticism of that. But I have to admit that one has to take one's hat off for recognizing that they were able to outgrow their long decades and centuries of racial prejudice. They were able to overcome their religious scruples, and they were able to say, let's look at the merit of this individual and go for him, whatever his racial and religious background.
Okay.
And not to mention his age. I mean, in India, let's just ask you, Maria, this is a guy who got elected for the first time in 2015. He's been 7 years an MP.
Yes.
7 years, and within 5 years he became finance minister. Within 7 years he became prime minister. In any ruling party in India, he'd be lucky to be an MOS at that time. So that too is a remarkable thing. So when I say, could it happen in India? You should look at race, you should look at religion, you should look at age and experience. We have, I think, valuable lessons to learn.